YouTube, what the crap's going on? HeirofCarthage here, and we are back in Total War Rome 2. Gonna have another online battle here for you. And this time it's gonna be myself again as Macedon. I was just using them in several battles online today just because I hadn't used them in a long time. And it's gonna be against Egypt, and honestly Egypt is the better faction here, there's no question about it. However, I do know that as far as one advantage that I feel that Macedon has over Egypt, it is cavalry, and I don't mean that if you count elephants, I mean it if you don't count elephants. So Ptolemaic cav are fantastic. They're a very good cav unit, but they're also very expensive, and they're really mainly good on the charge. They're not bad in a prolonged melee because their attack is so high, but they're not great because their defense is so low. So Ptolemaic cav can be a punishing cav unit, but again, their price is prohibitive. And so Macedon has many more options at their availability. So see Thessalian cav and Aspis cav. Aspis is also very expensive but very punishing. Thessalian cav is rather good for the price as far as just different utility. Companion cav, which is probably overpriced, but definitely useful if you get into the right spot because it has a very good charge. And then, yeah, anyway, so my army is a pike army. Once again, brought a bunch of levy pikes. I think I have 6 of them. My general actually kept in a companion cav to be a little more Macedonian. And then I've got 4 mercenary Cretan archers. And then I've got 4 militia hoplites, 2 on each flank, 1 Aspis cav and 1 Thessalian cav on each flank. So my opponent has some type of pretty good Egyptian army here, I think. Though I think he may have spent... well, I don't know, he spent more money on cavalry than I would in, say, like my Egyptian scare army. So he's got 2 Ptolemaic cavs here. There's a citizen cav that I can see, and some of his troops are still invisible. Though he, if you saw from the loading screen, I do believe he has 4 Cretan archers, a Sobek cultist, and a number of thorax swordsmen. So infantry-wise, my guys can beat him from the front, hands down. But he's not going to attack me from the front. No one with thorax swords ever does attack you from the front, and thus is the problem with pikes. They're very strong from the front, but no one has to attack you from the front, and never will. They will always attempt to outflank you, even if you're mowing them down with missiles. So that's what makes pikes difficult to use. I had a discussion about them in my last video, and some of you agree, some disagree. So I understand the hazards of buffing pikes. In the beginning of Rome 2, pikes were very strong. They were very weird in the way that they behaved, but they could chew through enemy units like it wasn't even funny. And I don't want them to do that. What I would like to see, and I proposed some things, and then I was reading what you all proposed in the comments, and I actually liked the idea that I heard from someone that said, hey, why not just buff the more expensive pikes so that they're actually worth the money? That I agree with, because levy pikemen are very much worth the money. They're not very good, but they're cheap, and they can, like, wall out a certain area, basically. So I was actually a big fan of that idea. Buff the pikes that are more expensive, make them worth it. They get killed so easy by missiles that they need some type of killing power. Plus, if it's the expensive ones that you do the most buffing on, people won't be able to really spam enough to probably pull off an effective pike box and have money left over for, you know, good skirmishers. So that's an idea that I'll throw out there. Tell me what you all think. Anyway, I am very much concerned at what my opponent's doing here, and this is a very typical maneuver against pikes. Pikes need to present a long wall, and that's precisely what I did. Presented a big long wall right across the front. So you can see that I'm actually folding that wall in. So now what my opponent's going to do is bring in the flanks. So he'll bring in his troops around either flank. So right now what I'll do is just go ahead and make kind of a wedge-shaped defense so that my opponent has to continue to try and walk all the way around me. And then once I get him sufficiently split, what I'm going to do at this point is, so it looks like I'm going to play defensively, but I'm actually going to go on the offensive. And essentially what I'll do is I will use some of my pikemen here just to phase out all of these units, and then I will spring an attack with everything I have on this flank, basically. So it's kind of a holding maneuver and a distraction. So it's really your only choice if someone starts to outflank you with pikes, is you've got to divide and conquer. And pikes are actually pretty good at this divide and conquer game because, again, they're a wall that basically can't be busted. You have to go around them, and the time that it takes to go around them is hopefully enough time to destroy the opposing flank. So this is going to be my attempt, and it's not going to be easy, because my opponent is playing well, and he appears to be a good player, and he's brought a pretty good army, and Egypt is just better. And see how he has his thorax swords spread way out? This makes him vulnerable to cav, but it makes him less vulnerable to missiles, and it also makes it to where he can easily get around the flank of my my units. So if I cav charged him though right now, it would destroy his thorax swordsman, but if I do that, I'm going to get countercharged by his cav, and that's not going to help me. So even though he's in thin lines and that's very risky, he's got units nearby to guard. He even has some camel spearmen here too. So he's definitely got a couple of fear elements that I'm going to have to be very careful of. So see again how I'm just making him walk completely around my box, making him completely split his units. See this big split right down the middle of his army? So there's no quick reinforcement anymore. So see, his guys are split along this axis of the battlefield. So basically now I'm going to go into action here in a minute. Let you all see how this goes for me. And I'm going to split a Thessalian cav out here with the idea of pulling my opponent away, though I think I forget about that unit for the duration of the battle, which is pretty intelligent of me. If by intelligent I mean downright stupid. I mean, it is so tempting to charge these Thorax Swordsmen with my Thessalian cav right now because they're unbraced and they're in long, thin lines, but again, I'm going to get immediate retribution from him if I do, and these Camel Spearmen are going to be bad. There's Sobek Cultist around too, and the interesting question here is whether or not the Sobek Cultist scare would be an additional scare on my horsemen on top of the Camel scare. The Sobek Cultists will scare all of my units, whereas the Camels will only scare horse units, and I'm curious if those two things stack. If anybody knows the answer to that, let me know. So here's where I begin my maneuver. So let's go into slow motion because this is important here. I feinted out with my general at his archers, and of course he's going to react with his Ptolemaic cav. What he didn't see, though, is that my Aspis cav right inside the woods is now countercharging him, and he does not want to fight an Aspis cav with his Ptolemaic cav. So now my opponent's Ptolemaic cav here is going to die. It can't get away from me. And now look how I immediately turn my attention now over to this flank. So this cavalry now cannot quickly reinforce the other flank, and this infantry and this cavalry is far separated. And again, look, I completely forget about these Thessalian cav, and they're like, hey, Air, could we get an order here? Seriously. So yeah, they're going to get destroyed by this Ptolemaic cav on the charge. But yeah, watch how I start to single him out. An Aspis cav to come in here and fix all of his men in place, because it's quite powerful. Got a nice charge here with my Thessalians into that citizen cav. And then I'm going to charge on, keep trying to get kills. And then I'm going to bring up my militia hoplites just to pin and bring in all my pikemen to come finish. My Aspis cav is very scared because of the stupid Sobek cultists and the camel spearmen, so it's already wavering a little bit. So I had to bring my general around for support, but you can see my units are not doing well over here as far as morale goes. And my Thessalian cav got beat back very quickly. But now my generals clear around the rear of the enemy units, and over here, check it out, sacrificial militia hoplites. It's like, hey, you all ain't going nowhere. So I pinned down the Egyptian units here with my worthless militia hoplites while I leave these guys to their death. And then over here, my Aspis cav finishes for almost no losses, just completely hacks down his Ptolemaic cav, and that's a fight that they really don't want to be in. And as soon as that's over, that means his archers are now wide open to my Aspis cav too. And see, look, so pikes are so dang slow. But here they are, they're finally here to reinforce this fight. It's going to want to make my enemy pull back, which is going to force him to take losses, because these militia hoplites and stuff are not a big deal, and then my Cretan archers can now come to bear on this fight as well. These camel spearmen are dying, these Aspis cav are up to 72 kills now, and then my general is working on that Sobek cultist at the moment. That scare effect is just killing my troops, but here, look at this, he gets a nice rear charge with his Ptolemaic cav, and that's going to destroy my general's unit. Really bad for me. Really bad. Anyway, yeah, he's got his archers here trying to work at my pikes, but it's in the woods, it's going to take a lot of ammo. And again, this allows me to focus all my archers here on this fight, so you can see that I effectively have my opponent split into two groups, and I'm going to isolate and continue to destroy this one, and then I'll turn back and focus on this group. Yeah, you can definitely see this is going to turn into my favor over here, and then check it out. 4 delicious Cretan archers, all just waiting to be destroyed by my Aspis companion cav. This is the kind of units that they eat for breakfast. And when you spend this much money on a unit of cavalry like Aspis cav, this is definitely the type of target that you want to take out with it, because it'll definitely pay for itself. These archers are very soft targets, and with the type of attack and armor that the Aspis cav have, these guys are going to get hammered. And again here, my opponent is a good player, and this match isn't over yet. You can see that he still has 3 Thorax swords here, and he's still got a Ptolemaic cav, and then his general is still alive too. And I lost my general, which means that my crappy levy units are now going to be in a rough position. The only inspiring unit that I have left is this Aspis companion cav. And he brings in his Ptolemaic cav. I try and get a quick counter-charge order. I'm going to take a few losses from it, but fortunately for me, that charge came in the woods. where it will nerf down his charge a little from speed. And then after the charge is over, my cavalry will cut his down at a pretty nice pace. So yeah, I managed to shut down his side over here, but these Sobek cultists came back from routing, and that is bad because this is a fear unit. You can see the Egyptian morale is much higher than my own right now because his units are better. And then here he manages to get into the flank, so again, pikemen, not easy to use. And my archers, though, I'm going to start pouring in fire all over his thorax swords, though they're under some cover due to the scrub that's around. But I am in heavy shot, so it's definitely going to take his toll on his men, and that's a lot of Cretan archer fire. There's not really many units that can stand up to that kind of punishment for too long. And again, you see every time he moves, I have to try and reposition my pikes, and pikes take like a year to put their pikes back down. This is another thing that needs to be fixed. They need to be able to put their pikes down quicker, or be able to run with their pikes down. Maybe not like full speed like a sword unit, but still be able to move quicker with their pikes down. Seems like I've read about Alexander doing phalanx charges of swords, so I don't know why there's not such a thing on the game. Yeah, you can see it's a very close fight. I need to kill his Ptolemaic cav, and I need to kill him quickly because my pikes are losing heart. And it's because this scare effect unit's getting very close to my men, and I had to sit here and try and hold it off. And look, it charged straight in my pikes, which killed most of the cultists, but then the rest of them were in a wide line, and they came around the flank, and they're going to sit here and just chew apart this levy pikeman. This is so dang annoying. But that's just how it works. You get around the flank of a pike, and see how I have to try and reform in order to fight them. Of course, that's not good for my morale, and my men start to waver. And they're going to rout. So yep, my men rout, even though the Sobek cultists weren't even attacking them. So yeah, now I've got 2 of these levy pikes left. I keep having to use the special abilities on them, but now those are gone. And it's just my 2 pike units, my Cretan archers, which are running dangerously low on ammo. And unfortunately, I have to unload some of that ammo on these Sobek cultists, because now I have a scare unit coming in behind me. I did get my Aspis Cav into his thorax swords, and I managed to cut down his Sobek cultist. Finally. It's been long enough, and so finally the morale of my men will try to stabilize. It's still a very close fight, and his swordsmen are still very sturdy units, and I am very nearly out of ammo. I have like 1, maybe 2 volleys left with a few of my archers, but finally the morale of his men starts to waver, and this Aspis Cav right here just clutched, man. Killed all of his archers, and then took out those last 2 swordsmen, plus I believe it took out 2 units of his Ptolemaic cav. So that unit definitely earning its pay in that battle. 435 kills, an impressive number from him. So this was a very close battle, and it was well played by my opponent there. He split up to kill my pikes, and he very nearly succeeded. If I hadn't tried what I did to isolate his wings, he definitely would have won this fight. There's no question. Because he could have just continued to split my army until he got me in an advantageous position. So again, that's the danger with pikes. So what I would like to see done with them, so again here, the levy pikes played their role perfectly, and they were well worth the cost. They didn't kill a lot of enemy infantry, and that's fine. They're just levy pikemen, you know. I don't expect them to be brutal. But if I was using thorax pikes or foot companions, I would expect them to maybe reform faster or drop their weapons faster, to kill faster, to actually be worth it, you know, because otherwise those more expensive pike units act just like these guys with slightly higher stats, not even impressively higher really. They're still vulnerable to missiles, they're still not very maneuverable. So again, I'd love to see the kill speed get higher on the more expensive pike units, maybe exponentially, so like if you bring a Hellenic Royal Guard, it would be much more powerful. Whereas a thorax swords would, you know, or thorax pike might still be more middle of the road. Like it'll cut units down much better than a levy pike, but not nearly as fast as say like a Hellenic Royal Guard. It'd be nice to see them do something with it. And again, if you do it with the expensive units, I think it would make it harder for someone to spam out pikes in order to noob box, which I'm sure is the #1 concern behind them. In any case, I hope you all enjoyed this one. I know I really did. Again, great game to my opponent. This one was very close battle. It was a really good one of my favorites for a long time. And then, again, my strategy there was absolutely necessary, I think, if I was going to win, because trying to go into a maneuvering battle with swords on either side of you is just going to be a losing venture with pikes. So had to try and divide and conquer his forces there, and it worked out this time, but clearly it could have rolled either way with a few minor changes in that battle there. So great game. HeirofCarthage signing off for now.